We're gonna actually talk about that now. So, being a college mathematics educator, how did I fall into this? What does this mean? So how am I a college mathematics educator? These will be the purple notes, okay? So, I am an instructional assistant, which is basically the next step down from being an adjunct professor. I do not have my master's degree. I have not gone to grad school, so I do not qualify to be a professor, but I run the math lab or math tutoring center at one of the local community college campuses. I will not tell you which one. I won't tell you which one just because I want to keep our businesses separate. So, working backwards, working from the furthest back, I graduated high school in 2016 with honors. Okay, and before I graduated in 2016, in 2015, I became a high school link crew leader, and as a high school link crew leader, we were responsible to basically mentor younger high school students. So what I ended up doing was a lot of math tutoring after school. This was my way of putting in my link crew hours. So I began math tutoring I began math tutoring my junior year of high school. I was 16. Okay. So that was my first exploration into math tutoring. Before this, it was also in 2014, but it was the end of my sophomore year. I was nominated and inducted into the National High School Honor Society or something like that. The National Yearbook. HSS or something like that, the National Honor Society, something like that, for mathematics. When I was 15. Okay, so I've had a very long career with advancing in my mathematical career. I'm not sure that I said that correctly, but the point was clear, I think. So this is when I really started getting into math tutoring, helping other people with mathematics. I graduated in 2016. I immediately went to university. And I did one semester of remedial math because on the placement test, I missed it by 4 questions or 4 points. I'm not sure what the correlation between the 2 units is. And I passed with a 3.0. And then I dropped out completely because I was a new driver, I did not have any money, and I really needed to work, like as much as possible. Dropped out December 2016. Then I worked for a year and a half. 1.5 years working. I did retail and I made my way into management. And I was too immature to continue to work in retail management because I was basically still just a teenager. And what I decided to do was start a career in healthcare. As a state licensed personal care assistant, which is a fancy way of saying I was a caregiver. I was a caregiver for 2 years until the height of the pandemic, and I specialized in hospice care. That was the main care that I did, and dementia care. And I lost several patients. I took care of well over 40 people in the 2 years that I was there. I got to meet some truly, truly amazing people. The man who invented the 50-50 bar machine, I cared for his son-in-law and met his daughter, and we got really close. His son-in-law was actually someone who slowed his dementia progression by doing calculus problems for fun as a hobby. So that was really interesting to me. He also spoke several languages because he was born to British parents in Tanzania in Africa. So he spoke several different languages naturally, and this man was just very interesting to me. Unfortunately, we didn't get to get very close because he passed away relatively quickly after I took over his care. I took over his care because he was passing so quickly. I tended to go in towards the end of the life of a hospice patient, and a lot of the time I was the last caregiver to be with them. In one instance, I was the last person to see one patient alive, who ended up being one of my grandma's friend's ex-husbands. I also I cared for one of the men who discovered the enzyme that unwinds DNA. He was on a team, so you wouldn't really be able to find him too much, but he was a Yale professor for 50 years before the turn of the century. He was well into his 90s, and he ended up surviving an ambush by Nazis in World War II and all kind of stuff. Very fascinating person. I worked for a guy who was a butcher for a grocery chain for 30-something years. I cared for a police officer who was 36, dying of leukemia. I really got to know a lot of people, and as we were talking about earlier, I studied people. That is just who I am. I'm a natural born caregiver. That is my individual personal culture. I am somebody who was born to be a caregiver. But yes, care culture is also something that anthropologically fascinates me. I am working on an hypothesis that so far I cannot seem to find any evidence that suggests that my hypothesis is wrong, but I'm also kind of stepping into paleoanthropology, and that is not my background. Anyway, so I ended up doing this, and when the same time, just like within weeks of starting my healthcare career, I went back to a community college in 2018. Started at a junior college in fall of 2018, and I enrolled as a biology a biology major. That first semester is also the time that I took my first anthropology class. It was cultural anthropology, and my professor was just so cool. She made it so easy to understand culture. And I think I always instinctively knew that that's what I was going to end up majoring in, and I fought it for 7.5 years. So I was going for biology, and I fell in love with anthropology, and I was taking the math classes that I needed to get back on track after taking so much time away from school. So I was doing for biology with anthropology and math classes, and then spring of 2020, I took Calculus 1, and I am somebody that even though I had pretty much always had great success in math classes, I took a math class every year of K-12, I took math every semester of college until I had no more math classes to take. I took Calculus 1 and I aced it. I aced it. Even in the middle of shutting down for the pandemic, I aced Calculus 1 and I fell in love with mathematics again. A plus Calc 1. All right, so going from there, I just continued to take more maths, and for biology, I would have had to take through Calculus 3 anyway. So I discussed with my counselor, and she said, hey, you could actually end up having several different degrees here. And so that's kind of the path that we went for. And so before I graduated from community college, I was majoring in 5 different programs. 5 majors. It was biology, anthropology, mathematics, liberal arts, math and science, and liberal arts, liberal arts, social, and behavioral studies. Social and behavioral studies. So as you can see, biology, mathematics, and liberal arts, math and science, those all kind of overlapped greatly. And then anthropology and the liberal arts, social and behavioral sciences, those greatly overlapped. So I ended up getting extremely well-rounded in my junior college education. I took all of the mathematics except for linear algebra, from pre-calculus to differential equations while I was there. I had already taken pre-calculus and statistics in high school, but I did not pass pre-calculus in high school. I did pass statistics, but I still had to repeat them. Okay, so this is what I was majoring in community college. And when I actually graduated from community college, I did not apply. I dropped my biology major because I could not pass organic chemistry. Chemistry is very difficult for me, and organic chemistry particularly so, as most people will agree with. I took it 3 times and failed. It was not worth my mental health, my stress, or my time to continue to take a class that I knew I could not pass, at least in that point in my life. And so I dropped being a biology major, so I did not graduate with an associate's or any degree in biology, but I did take all of the classes except for the physics. I did apply to and graduate with my associates in anthropology, as we discussed. I did not. I was my differential equations class. I failed it twice. I don't think so much that it was because it was too difficult material-wise. Material-wise, I think it was because the professors were giving so much homework that it was taking 3-4 days to actually do a complete assignment, on top of all of the other responsibilities, on top of commuting, on top of working, which I'm about to get into. So because I didn't graduate, or I didn't pass differential equations, I did not graduate with my degree in mathematics. That is the only reason I do not have a degree in mathematics. And that is why I do know all of the undergraduate math, except for linear algebra. So that is this experience in mathematics, plus more tutoring experience that I'm about to tell you about, is why I am currently an instructional assistant or a college mathematics educator. I run my own math tutoring center. I run it. It is just me in here. I currently do not have any student tutors, so it is on me to be able to help any math student. But no, I do not have my degree in mathematics. I do have my degree in liberal arts and math and science. So I guess one could argue that I have a degree in mathematics. I do not. And I did graduate with my liberal arts, social and behavioral science degree. So those are my 3 degrees from junior college, and then my bachelor's degree in anthropology, or cultural anthropology. But like I was just saying, having studied mathematics, taken all of those classes, and passed, I had the mathematical knowledge, the experience. I still have my notes. They're here on my bookshelf so students can come and flip through them for resources, anything like that. But at the same time, in January 2022, I applied to be a student tutor at the math lab at my community college that I was a student at, of course. And I got hired, and I did that from January 2022 until I transferred in May of 2023. So a year and a half-ish of being a college math tutor. And when I transferred, because you don't have to have your degree to transfer, you just have to have completed all of the units that are required. I transferred to uni as a math major. No, as a biology major, excuse me. I transferred as a biology major. I really wanted to study evolution, and I did that. That's another reason I chose anthropology. I transferred as biology, and I realized I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have to take more chemistry, nothing. So I changed majors to math. And I started taking set theory and logic, math history. I took linear algebra. And I think I was in English and a political science course, all in that same semester. And I realized, oh, no, I don't want to be a math major. I don't want to do this right now. My brain needs a break. It needs a reprieve from learning more math. So at the end of that semester, or in the middle of the semester, I changed my major again to anthropology. And that's where it stayed. And then I graduated in May of 2025. Okay, so that is my educational background. And then, of course, before I had actually graduated with my degree, in my bachelor's degree, I had been hired for this position. My experience as a tutor from 2014 to 2016, and from January 2022 to May 2023 gave me so many hours of experience. Plus, obviously, the tutoring part of this business is included in that also, because I started that in 2023. The experience and having passed the math courses, it allowed me to be hired for this job. And in fact, the lady who hired me, who's the dean for our center, she was a major math professor. And she just really enjoyed the way that I explained things. And so that is how I'm a college mathematics educator. That's how I'm a college mathematics educator and a cultural anthropologist.